Hello, I am Yogini Sunita, and this is Meditation, Yoga, and Stuff podcast. I believe my dharma or my life's purpose is to share my understanding of meditation, yoga, and Ayurveda, holistic healing science of India. I make these amazing wisdoms accessible and adaptable for present times. So let's start.
Hello and welcome to the podcast. Today's topic is love thyself and how to work with the inner critic. Now, our inner critic can be sometimes very harsh and can be sometimes very mild. It is really individual. It depends on where we've grown up, what stories our mind have created, what memories we are storing, because our memories are basically also not exactly we will remember what happened. So our mind creates story around that as well, and so we store that information, and that also shapes our voice of our inner critic. It is really individual. Upbringing, our sanskaras, the way we've grown up, it can create this inner voice. And it could be harsh, it could be gentle. But most of the time, in my experience, that the negative self-talk which goes in our mind can affect our system tremendously. So how can we work with it? And how do we know that we have this self-talk? How do we know that it is negative? So here I would suggest that listening to the thoughts happening, is there tone to your thought? Is it gentle? Is it caring? Is it authoritative? Is it angry? It is criticizing. And we are just observing, we are not judging anything, we are just noticing. Then we are also tuning into, so once we know that this inner critic has this particular tone of voice, then we can work with it. So first, my suggestion is to observe. And how do we observe? We start tuning into the thoughts and start listening to the tone of the thought. What kind of tone our thoughts have. And once you start noticing, maybe it is critical, angry, happy, whichever tone is, without any judgment. If it is negative tone, then we are going to work with it. So what we are going to do is we're going to start tuning into understanding that this is happening, and we're going to try and flip this voice. So we're going to bring in intervention. And how to do that is, I will tell you personally what I did. I noticed that the thought in my head was very authoritative, very, very demanding and controlling. And there was no forgiveness in these thoughts, in this tone of the voice of my thoughts. The thoughts were always how to do everything perfectly, and if it doesn't go as perfectly as I had in my mind, then there were a lot of criticism, there were a lot of angry thoughts like, how could you do this, and so this perfectionist in me was taking over. So I had to start softening those, and I started thinking that how will I treat anyone around me? I always treat them with very gentle, compassionate voice. And so I started turning this voice into gentle, compassionate sounding voice towards myself. And I started noticing that that change had actually changed so much in my whole being. And you can do it like the exercise I did was when I start noticing the thoughts which are maybe a little bit controlling, or maybe they are commanding thoughts, I started changing into a gentler voice. I started removing the negativeness in the thoughts to positiveness. And it took some time. I would say like 3 to 4 years, really. I was slowly and steadily, a lot of dedication and a lot of observation without any judgment. That was the key. So very slowly, you can bring in this intervention that, observe the thought. When you notice, I started thanking that thought, that thank you very much, because there must be some reason why my psyche created this thought. So I thank the thought, and I requested that this is how we're going to think now. And I started changing the tone into from negative to positive. I realized that my first answer usually was no to anything. And I realized now I'm going to say yes. And saying yes from heart was another way I started accepting, positive things in my life. For example, if someone gave me a compliment about my teaching yoga meditation, how it helped them, my first thing was to hide behind, oh no, it's you, and all yoga teachers are fantastic. But now I started realizing that after this kind of like intervention, I started realizing that it is very important to also acknowledge any compliment, because the clients were giving the compliment from their heart. So I allowed the compliment to sink into my heart, allowed to gently let that compliment embody in my system. And the magic happens. So saying yes to compliments, saying yes to positive things in life, that's second step. Now, third step, I would say, is we can bring in affirmations in our life. Now, this affirmation, rather than affirmation, I would say sankalpa. Sankalpa is a very powerful concept in wisdom of yoga. And what sankalpa does is it's about aim or goal of your life. And we set this goal in such a way that it is about maybe your purpose of your life, and you say a sentence in very present tense as if that goal is happening now, and you repeat it when your mind is still, and repeat it as whenever you can. There are also particular practices you can use to even cement the sankalpa in your system. And once sankalpa is completed, you can take the next one. I had done a podcast on sankalpa. Please go back and listen to that podcast episode. It is really, really valuable, I think, if you want to explore concept of sankalpa or affirmations. So affirmations can be very powerful. And it's not just a constant repetition. The affirmation in the form of sankalpa is a very powerful way to embody the practice. What happens with sankalpa is all our energy starts moving towards completing this goal. And it happens subconsciously. So it is a very powerful technique. And then also we can bring in self-care practices, very important. Consciously taking time out for yourself to look after yourself. So how can we do that? And this is where I encourage you to take an opportunity to notice what really matters to you, what is important to you, and tune into that and bring that more in your life. For example, your love for yoga or your love for nature walk is important for you, or a Tai Chi or anything, something like that which you really value. So bringing that more in your life. Amazing massages, acupuncture, things like that can really, these are energy gaining practices. So bringing in more energy gaining practices or prana gaining practices. I personally love acupuncture, I have discovered this amazing lady near my place. And she does such a wonderful job. Like, she does the acupuncture. She knows what she's doing, and she has many years of experience. So I feel very fortunate to, give my system in her hands, and she does wonders. So it's really is very helpful, because what happens that I understand energy, so I'm very careful with whom I will work. And so I will let anyone work with me in this physical and energetic sense, because acupuncture is not just physical, it's definitely about the energy system. And being a yoga teacher, I totally understand the energy system. So I know exactly what she is doing. And I understand that she is doing the correct thing to release the energy. And we actually talk in the language of energy, which is really beautiful. I think I feel very much grateful to have her in my life. And then another thing I do quite regularly is nature walk. I love that. And recently, I have a little dog now in my life, and the joy of having a little blessing like that, I truly believe that that is also self-care, the amazing experience of having this lovely soul around you is just beautiful. And also, you can bring in practices like yoga, asana practice for your system. Breathing practices are really valuable. So what happens that our breath and our mind is very much connected. So, for example, if you notice that when you are anxious, your breath is shallow. You may notice that when you're not feeling well, your breath is not regular. And so most of the time our breath is not regular, but just few moments of bringing breath into regular rhythm can be very powerful. You don't have to know pranayam. You can just focus on breath and meditate. You're getting benefit of both meditation, and when we bring awareness towards breath, our breath is going to deepen. So you're getting benefit of oxygenating your system. So breath meditation can be very powerful. Another type of meditation is self-compassion meditation. And what happens in this kind of meditation is we basically send love and compassion towards ourselves. So we slowly and steadily start forgive ourselves for any mistakes. We don't judge ourselves that harshly. And I'm telling you this from my personal experience, that initially it feels very new, very weird to do these things, but slowly allowing it to happen, you start noticing that slowly it becomes second nature. And this really helps for that our inner critic, we are changing the tone of the inner critic to positive, and our cheerleader, basically our inner critic can be our cheerleader, our supporter. It can give us a lot of strength, because our mind is most powerful tool we have. This tool helps us to move toward enlightenment. So this is a tool which we are going to use to bring in more positivity in our life. And our mind can do so much with its strength. So what we are doing is, instead of negative self-talk and bringing us down, we are training our mind or our inner critic to start thinking positively, start bringing in more positive energy. Once we did this, we also start regularly tune into your intentions. What it does is regularly, at least once a month or twice a month, start tuning in what's happening with your intention. When one intention is fulfilled or sankalpa has completed, you can move to the next one. This way, we have some goal to move towards. Because how human mind works is it needs challenge. So bringing in challenge, and if it is positive challenge, that will be really valuable. Because ultimately human beings are built to grow together. So initially your goals may be self-centered, and that's okay. It's all about you initially. But you will start noticing that once you fulfill what you need for yourself, your goals will change and it will be more to serve others. So continuing, and reflecting with your goals, and noticing that what you need at this point in your life, it really gives us so much. And all this, sometimes the inner critic is basically just wants you to pay attention to what's happening. And another thing you can do is make a date with yourself. You can have coffees and things like that with your friends and your partner, but once in a while, at least once a month, have time just for yourself. And that will give you so much of just that, connecting with yourself, connecting with what's happening with yourself, this type of kind of like a self date, as I call it, is really amazing. I usually try to do it on Sunday morning. There is a lovely cafe near water where I live, and I like to go and sit there, experiencing water, experiencing what's happening around me. Also, you can also do things like some activity just on your own, if you want, and creating new experience like that. So this gives us courage to that it's okay to be alone sometimes, And so coming back to our inner critic is valuable, and it has done its purpose, and tuning into that, it doesn't have to be negative. You can turn your critic to as your cheerleader. So these are my few suggestions for, turning your, or flipping the inner voice to positive. And yoga, Ayurveda, and meditation have so many different toolkits to do that. Maybe these modalities not for you. Maybe something else will work for you. But tune into what really works, how it works for you, and how it really gives you that understanding that, okay, this is happening in my head. And I need to flip this voice. Once you start doing that, you are actually moving towards positive energy. So when our mind is also vibration, our thoughts are vibration. And so when we have, and our whole system is vibration. So when we are thinking negatively, our whole system is vibrating on that negative channel. And with these correct practices and correct awareness, and slowly and steadily, we start dialing our inner voice to positive. When we start doing that, we are actually changing the vibration of our whole system. So coming back to this changing vibration of your system from negative to positive, observing your self-talk and changing it without judgment, because if we start judging it, then we are also creating another negative vibration. So it is what it is, as we say in yoga. It is what it is, acceptance, and then from there, okay, now what? It is what it is. Now it is time to take action. You can take a massive action, or you can take a gentle action, depending on what works for you. Sometimes we need to take massive action, and sometimes we need to take small steps at a time. I also like to listen to inspirational audiobooks and inspirational teachers who can change your vibration as well, like who can change your or intervene your thought patterns from negative towards positive. So constantly, and this is a constant work. This is not something we do at one time and it's done. No, it is a constant work, and we need to constantly reconnecting with ourselves and continue working with changing this inner dialogue. Because as soon as we become a little bit relaxed, the mind can fall back into its patterns. Or if the mind is too stressed, it will fall back into its patterns. So I suggest that, make it your habit, that consciously observing your thoughts. And how we can do that is really observing when you're doing any work, or being mindful, or you can observe it also in meditation as well. And you will start noticing that the more we'll observe, the more we'll change the coloring of our thoughts from negative to positive. I hope that this podcast helps you understand how to switch from negative to positive mindset. I also wanted to share with you, and I think I had done it last week's episode as well, that there are some positive things happening. There are some big things coming, so stay tuned. I'll be announcing something very soon, and I'm very excited about it. So I hope that you're here. You will be here, and please don't forget to subscribe. Thank you for being here. I really appreciate you being here.
Thank you for tuning in. I really appreciate that you're taking this time out of your day. Don't forget to subscribe. Take care. Bye for now.